dollar will. You should recognize his name with this gentleman here, if not the face. This is
Mhm.
young Grizzly. He's known all over these YouTube manosphere streets. You know, he's a man of many interests and many talents. He
Huh.
is, first off, let me say, he is the originator, creator of the name, the Black Brain Trust. Okay, that came from him. You know, we have a little email group
Mhm.
coming off of BGS it more. You know, we develop a little email chain of some of us where we would go a little deeper into some of the things that maybe we couldn't get the time to discuss on that show because it's, you know, it's varied topics on that show, and we might want to go a little deeper on some things, maybe talk 8 hours of one thing that might, like, you know, send everybody else into a nod. And so
Yeah.
you know, so that grew. And then this brother said, hey man, y'all are like a brain trust. Y'all need to have a channel called the Black Brain Trust.
Mm.
And the rest is history. And so
Yeah. The name definitely. What's it called? That wasn't even really on purpose. It was really to show that, hey, listen, we got black guys that are doing this brain trust. The guys went off. Lionel and Mike went off and made the channel, and then I posted one of their videos. Not to like correct or anything. I just want to make sure, like, hey, listen, I don't want to take credit for something I really didn't do. Those guys went off and made that channel, and I said, hey, man, this is from people that I dub or I consider to be the Black Brain Trust. That's what it was. It was a Facebook post in a Bitcoin group. But yeah, and then I think it was who brought it to your attention. Ulysses, Complex Design brought it to their attention, and then they stuck with the name, man. Which I honestly, it fits them perfectly.
right, yeah, and I thought it was right on. You know, it's yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, y'all never some know. I like the sound. And then yeah, it's. I'm gonna move on.
yeah,
Let me not leave it like that. I like the name,
yeah.
but for me, it's an aspirational thing. I knew that some people would go, "Oh, you guys think you smarter than everybody." I just saw that invitation right there that people would twist it, you know, something
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't even about that, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
people would make it that. And so that was my reservation about it. That, you know, so whenever I say the name of the show, and you know, I say that, and the idea also was aspirational. It was like we wanted to kind of build a brain trust. Okay, we accepted. Okay, we were the cornerstone, but it was recognition that there's a lot of brilliant brothers in the manosphere, and you know, to conclude that we are limited to the types of things you might hear us say in one small exchange, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that would be a gross mischaracterization of the depth of the brothers in the manosphere. And so what we want, I was like, okay, the brain trust, I like that because it could be a launch pad for brothers who want to be represented in, say, I guess, the fullness of who they are, and not when they, you know, talk about some of the effery that we talk about on these YouTube streets, you know, because these are brothers, because, you know, people say little things like, oh, these are brothers sleeping in their mama's basement, they losers, they not winning. I'm like, no, these are brothers with like real jobs, serious jobs, like in the top, you know, 10-20% in salaries in America. These are black men who are winning in capitalism by, if you want to look at on an average scale, but you know, with a lot of I would say us, even when we're winning, it doesn't feel like winning because our
Can't win for losing sometimes.
ambition is so great, and we're like, six figures, that's nothing. You know, and you feel like you're being held back because you feel like it's more you can do. And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so I'm like, okay, the brain trust, it should be a place where we can attract people who have that kind of ambition and drive, and that could also be a resource for other brothers in the manosphere. And so that's what I was thinking, that about it, and not that it's not that, or not, you know, still heading toward in that direction, but that's where it was coming from. And Young Grizzly was, instrumental in that. And of course, key to it all is, I never said it yet, but what's also powerful about the Brain Trust and that meeting in that first group is it's multi-generational. It's multi-generational. And if it's not about passing it on to help, somebody else, then it's, we all wasting time. And so, so Grizzly, was there tolerating us older folks, we could get a little preachy, and he would stand his ground too, and we'd have to fall back in his point of view. It was a good
I know we've gone back and forth sometimes, but I'd be like, man, what the hell you talking about, Dollar?
Right. I'm not always so mild as y'all hear me on this channel. I am an Aries.
Hey, yeah, definitely. I'd like to put out a correction though. I don't live in my mother's basement. It's Florida. We don't have basements, so I do have a room. Just letting people know. Even with making six figures, now I just and that's one of the things I want to talk about even tonight. But even with making that type of money, it's like, okay, even if you're making that money, it's kind of what you're saying, or to what you said, even making that money is just not enough. You have to do more. And that's kind of one of the things I'm looking at and focusing over the next 2 years. And this whole conversation is to help develop and refine and get me started with my next 2 years and the moves that I want to make. So that's kind of what, the Black Brain Trust, I don't see it as, me personally, and I know you probably even think this way too, but I don't really see it as a name that's boastful or what have you. And it's not just aspirational. It's just, we are smart men. And it's kind of one of those, as Black men, we definitely need to all embrace that and say, hey, listen, yeah, we are smart men. What's up? Like, we are doing these things. We do have homes. We do have, 6-figure incomes. We do have, if you want the nice car, we do have the 401k and investments and properties. And in my case, businesses is my thing. Another little bit about me. I work a night job and make $50K a year there. Work a day job now, make $75K a year there. Was running a computer consulting company, but limited that. In fact, I still got a customer at 7-11 here Eastern. I still got to go see a customer at 9. They're waiting for me. And doing more coding, programming, building APIs and data aggregation systems. And then also I own a salon. It's 3,700 square feet, about 26 different stations in there. And, in a salon, like, we got nail techs, barbers, stylists, and then private rooms is like 3 private rooms, which are all full. So like, we as Black men, especially Black men of the Black Brain Trust, we're all doing, business in some way, shape, or form, like whether it be in me, agricultural technology is one thing I'm going into next. And then other men such as Dollar Will doing finance, Complex Design doing stuff in the cannabis industry. And then also Mike V in IT security, cybersecurity, Lionel, especially in investing now, going more into Bitcoin investing and things like that, and on his various channels as well. So we are doing these things, and we also are inspiring other men. And that's another thing that's important about the name, is that we're actually drawing in these men too, because they're like, these guys are the Black Brain Trust, and they back it up because they have the knowledge. So that's like very important.
Yeah, and I'll say one of the things that I was impressed with you about in terms of I'll say where you exceeded me when I was your age. You working in corporate environment, making the nice money and all that, but you still said, okay, I need a side hustle.
Right.
I need a side hustle. And I would say, if I look back on my mistake, I gave too much to the job, to that one business, and I would be done, man. I would be like, I would be spent. and we cannot afford to do that. And so when I heard you telling your story about how you were at the time, it was an aspiration of yours to have this um, beauty parlor. How
Yeah.
would you define it? How would you
Um,
characterize it?
Barbershop, salon, beauty parlor actually makes sense as well. Just barbershop, salon, and spa services in some cases, because we do
Right.
have like, getting stuff done, getting your feet done, and all that other stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So total body maintenance,
Yep. Yep.
externally.
Hey man, some people spend hours there on Fridays. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I was impressed by that because sometimes I,
Appreciate it.
I also know that brothers, when they get to a certain level, they're like certain things they don't want to do. We get
Right.
into this like class thing that, oh well, I don't want to do a barber shop. What
Hmm.
barber
Or
shop
I
is
don't know
one of
what it
those.
is. I
Yeah.
get a lot. People say, "Hey, listen, Mike, you're doing too much," and I'm like, "I'm Jamaican. I'm not doing enough." Like,
Yeah, like,
like,
we should be above something. What? No,
right.
no.
Oh,
That's a solid recession proof business.
I ran a cleaning
In bad
company.
times, people
Hmm.
like to look good. They like because when they look good, they feel good, and especially Black people in particular. We
Hmm.
are very particular about our fro. Getting our crown.
Right.
That's serious business with us. And so I'm like, wow, that brother is really on it because I know I wanted when I was in my 30s, I was with my little crew. I was trying to get us to put out, and everybody was working. Everybody had a nice house in the suburbs, was working all that, and but we all wanted a little more money because we wanted to get a little further than we were. And I was
Hmm.
trying to get my little crew together to at the time, Subway, the Subway sandwich shop, they were not everywhere like you see right
Yeah.
now. And so, but the talk was clear that their commitment to grow that franchise, and they didn't really want a whole lot of money to
Yep. They
start
still
an
don't.
individual
I think
franchise.
they want probably about 100 liquid now. That's
Mhm.
actually a part of. I probably won't be doing that, but
Right,
that was a part of my what I called my ghetto holy trinity,
right,
and that was a laundromat, liquor store, and a Subway. If I had
right,
all three of those, or like the liquor store could be a corner store too. But if I had all three of those, maybe even buy a commercial property, put them all in one, that's
right.
mint money to me at least. But now I'm looking definitely for the laundromat. Those are probably about. I've seen smaller ones with about 8 washers, dryers, and all that, probably about 30 grand or so. So like instead of buying a new car, maybe get into one of those, and we could talk more about that.
That's basically what I was trying to segue into. But I'll say that was just to fast track it there. My crew was not they didn't nobody came, how we do. We don't come up with the money, and
Yep.
we people start having extra babies and
Hmm.
other stuff, and so it just kind of didn't happen, and I wasn't really that motivated to
Hmm.
put in those extra hours that it would take to like do it like solo. And so when I met you on YouTube, I'm like, that's awesome. This brother's doing it. You know,
Yeah.
he had some nice partners, some partners that were committed, and
Hmm.
y'all did the thing. And it didn't. It took some commitment because you showed videos on your channel of how you were doing like some of the renovations in the building to get it up to the level where you could have your grand opening and all of that. And
Hmm.
so you finally got the business going, and so the business. When did the business open?
It opened this coming May would be 2 years. So what was that 2018, 2017? So I think May 14th, 2017. May 14th, 2018. Sorry. So
Okay.
2 years. This coming May would be 2 years.
You want to shout out the name and area of this place?
Yeah. So in the Miami Gardens area, South Florida. So that's Miami-Dade County in the Miami Gardens area. Location is 16363 Northwest 57th Ave, 33014, and that's Top Cutters Deuce because it's the second location. My business partner owns the first location, which is located that first location is located by the stadium, the Miami Dolphins Stadium, or the Hard Rock Casino Stadium as they call it now. That changes that name every year, but That is off of the 826 highway and 57th Ave, and you go to 826 heading heading west, sorry, and then get off on 57th Ave heading south, and will be the next plaza just south of the Home Depot. And it's probably about 3,700 square foot, as I said, 26 spots in there. So if there's anybody that would like to switch locations and get a new barbershop or get into something, that'd be great. And we're there and available.
All right. So a little bit more than a year and a half. You kicked open the spot. Now nobody's going to go in there and find you cutting hair, right?
Nope. You barely find me getting my hair cut.
Okay. So tell me this: what you had a certain idea how things would go when you got into business, when you started, when you had your grand opening. What were some challenges that presented themselves that you didn't expect?
So we're still going through challenges. One of the bigger challenges now is just money coming in the door and looking at the business. Starting out working with general contractors, they're freaking bloodsuckers. Every profession has their lawyer-esque, if you will, or every kind of project, if you will, or something has their kind of lawyer that will suck the living life out of you. So dealing with the city was another problem, getting our plans approved. But a part of that problem was the general contractor not sending out their permit runner to, in some cases, you have to, when you're applying for a permit or doing updates to any drawings and revisions, you actually have to submit the drawings to the county and the local municipality, so the city. So you have your Miami-Dade County, or Dade County, really, and then you have the local municipality, wherever that may lie, which would be like Miami Gardens, dealing with different things like the DERM office. DERM is for water. I think it's the water. They pretty much oversee water. So, for instance, if you have something that's putting a lot of different chemicals in there, you're going to have to pay accordingly for that. And it's a business. So we have a lot of shampoo stations and things like that. So you have to go through DERM, say, hey, listen, this is how many spots we have, and pay them their little bit of money so that they can actually fund what's necessary. And they also understand what's going on in the area in terms of water. Landlord wasn't a problem. Landlord's actually been really good. They've worked with us quite a bit, 3 months rent and things like that, even working with us now while we're still trying to build the place. Because one of the things, and fast forwarding here, but one of the things is getting a salon up and running, and you have that many spots, you might want to go for a smaller spot, which is one of the things that I've learned so far is, okay, get a smaller spot, fill that space, then probably transition into a larger space and then start filling that. So instead of getting 26 stations, cut that down in half, maybe fill those, and then, hey, we need a bigger space. Let's move up and
Okay,
go
so
in and do things like that.
let me see if I'm following you. So you're saying when you say stations, so the individual barbers and beauticians
The chairs, if
and
you
other
will.
technicians, they are their own independent business. You're
Yes, they're their own
contracting with
independent
them.
contractor in a sense, and then we're the landlord, and we're subleasing the space within the space, right? So like the space is the space, and we have that, and we take care of it, and then we have the chairs, and then those chairs come in at a rate of, if you're a nail tech, you're 125 a week. If you're a barber, you're 200 a week. If you're in a private room, you're 300 a week, and so you just go from there.
And so so when they make money as independent businesses, that strengthens their capacity to be able to pay you.
Right. Yeah. So that goes into, the price is the price, right? But that really goes into, the price may be the price, but are they going to pay on time? Are they
Yeah,
going to pay
where I was
every?
going with that is if they're not good, say if they give poor customer service, or if they're not good at marketing their business, all of that stresses their relationship with you, because that would affect, or if they're just not good with handling their money, man,
Mhm,
budgeting their money,
mhm.
all of those factors affect their business relationship with you.
Right, because they can't pay.
So do you end up getting, or did you end up getting pulled into things like helping them
Yeah.
become better at customer service, and helping them come up with marketing and promotion plans and things like that?
So we've done a couple things. One thing that we've done, and you'll see this on the video on my channel, where I've actually written, I would say almost like a program, but it's a web page really, and it has a little bit of logic to it. And we have about two 49-inch or 40 something inch TVs in the front of the space. And we have two of those. And then all it does is scrolls through everyone's work. So I say, hey, listen, if you want, we could put you up on the advertising screen. If you have a sale or something like that, give us the image. We post it up for however long you want it. We've also done things where we talk to them. My business partner, he's a barber. He already owns another space or another shop. And he mentors people, but you can only mentor who listens. And this gets into another side of just working with people that probably don't have that motivation. And you start to see that, hey, listen, these people want to be fed in some cases. And then also there's other sides. Hey, listen, they fell on tough times. Business is not going well enough for them. Can you be a little bit lenient on the rent? Yes, but to a certain extent. So it just looks good to have the place filled and then work with them in terms of, hey, pay me when you can, pay me whatever you can. And I just mark it on the spreadsheet. You will be falling behind, but then at least you're here. And that's kind of how we help them. And in some cases also giving certain people a free spot, but then saying, hey, I need you to sweep the floors. I need you to do this. I need you to maybe greet people and things like that. And we've done all those things.
So earlier you said, instead of opening up such a bigger place, maybe you should have started with a smaller place. So you're saying basically those relationships with those independent contractors, it may have been better to have those relationships, or at least a good solid foundation of a number of those relationships in place before you went forward. Because that's still, so you're basically saying, or I hear you, you can correct me if I'm receiving this correctly, that you underestimated the ease of getting good independent contractors.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where I wouldn't say, like, we had a feeling things would be hard, but then of course you start going off of not just hope and not just the numbers, but like, okay, I'm motivated. I know I can sell these spots.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one business partner that sells the spots. I actually also did cold calling at 1.2 to get people. But that would go to my lack of understanding of the business and how to get these people. Actually, I knew a little bit. Essentially, you got to steal those. You got to steal barbers that are experienced from other shops. Sometimes they just want to move. Sometimes they, just have to be kind of coerced and say, hey, listen, come on over here. We got this. We're doing a move-in special, $100 for 4 weeks. Go from there. And that's our standard move-in special. And then build yourself up. And then some people will just, BS you. But yeah, I would say it was underestimated. And then, or I think we did not estimate properly in terms of how fast it will be filled and making sure that all the capital was there, or not even all the capital was there, but if stuff hits the fan, like, how do we deal with that? And that was one of the things where I was a little bit more conservative in my numbers and understanding of that. And because of that, I've been able to make sure that the business stays on top in a number of ways by just like, just the amount of money I get. So it's just kind of like I have more free capital because I don't have kids and I don't, I live in my mom's basement or room, so I have that extra fund to do. I have the extra funds to do these things and take these risks. And this is one of the reasons why I took it. But yeah, to answer your question, if it did, let me know.
If everybody listened, that wasn't a shot when I said, you underestimated, something. Whenever you start a business, whenever you start a business, you never gonna know everything and get everything right, because something always comes up, something's always going to come up. How's that saying go? Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You can't sit back and wait for the perfect opportunity.
Or more, is it Moore's law or
yeah,
Moore's law?
whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
And it
That's
sure
a part
does.
of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot of stuff, and you how you respond to problems, how you solve problems. That's the skill.
Right.
Not going and expecting and everything's going to be perfect, or you're so smart and well resourced and all that nothing's ever going to happen. And something's going to happen. You have to deal with it as it comes up. And so that wasn't a criticism. I'm not saying you took it that way, but for people listening, when I said you didn't anticipate or underestimated something, that wasn't a shot. It's just pointing out what the stumbling block
or to further back up your point, and you said something that was very key, is handling and how to respond to certain things. So in certain cases, I played a cool head, but I always let my business partners know how I felt. I have 2 other business partners in this business, and then 2 other business partners in my computer consulting business as well. I always believe in dream teams, a team of 3 when building these things, but having the right business partners that won't, go for your throat when money's drying up and you're losing things, or you possibly can get sued, or you're behind, and having those cool heads. And in some cases, I actually have freaked out, and and then I went back to my business partners. I went back to my business partners and I told them, I was like, listen, I'm sorry for what I did and what I said. Whether you knew it or not, I was freaking the fuck out. I was freaking the fudge out, and I was kind of losing it. And I'm sorry for that, but I want you to understand these are the numbers and this is why I'm freaking out. And, like we all talked, and, we had the meetings and everything else like that. And responding and being able to say, hey, listen, stuff is hitting the fan. How do you deal with it? And going from there. And that's very important too, because I've seen other salons that one in particular that started up, I think around the same time as us. They were very small. And then you start to hear that one business partner was taking all the rent money and just taking it and wasn't paying rent. And next, they got their whole place closed,
Yeah, well, like they say, the dollars got to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Dollars you put into it gotta add up.
Or stuff will change.
There you go. So now, a year and a half in, you're at the fork in the road, and you're looking at some changes that you're contemplating. Some professional and some are personal. I'll let you take it from there, and I'll throw that pitch to you, and you can hit it like you like it.
Oh yeah, so as far as the salon is concerned, we had that fork in the road moment, and I just said, hey, look at the numbers, guys. We're burning in some cases $1,000 to $2,000 a month, and in some cases you'll break even some months, and then other months you won't. We've been consistently behind in the terms of, or we've been consistently at the doorstep of breaking even in some cases, and saying, hey, listen, all we need is about 2 more people to fill these seats at $200 a week, and that's it. Like, we're good, and you'll be that close. But then you also have to take the pragmatic view and say, hey, we can't handle this. And then the downside is, understanding your lease, understanding the laws that are in your state. In some, there's the obligation to mitigate losses in terms of leases. So in some states, the landlord is not obligated to mitigate his losses, which means that if you default in any way, shape, or form, and the business closed down, you can't pay him rent, he does not have to actually try and fill that space and then stop charging you the monthly rent. He can keep on doing it and then say, hey, well, you owe me for the full term of the lease, and you owe me that full amount. And then you have to go to court, settle that, and deal with it. And they'll win a judgment against you or something like that, because essentially in a sense, it's not like it's a loan, but you defaulted or you failed on your side of the agreement. and you have to pay for that. So then you have to, when you look at things like that, I've actually missed time, or what's it called, not time things properly, and said, hey, listen, we should have made this decision to get it started 2 or 3 months ago to actually sell this business. Now, I do want to say, and this is concerns of the salon, I do want to say that I love the salon business and everything like that, and I think it's a great business, and it just needs more time to grow. We're under the 3-year marker in terms of being open. We've been open. It took about a year for construction because we had hurricanes, I think Irma and Harvey, while we were doing construction. And we also had permitting issues with a GC, picking the right people, so on and so forth. And then that took a year to build out. And then we took another year. But then we finally opened up. We finally opened up. And then once we did open up, we've been open for a year and a half, going on to 2 years in May. And it would have been great if we opened up earlier. But this goes into what you talked about in terms of estimating your time and projecting things properly and making sure you have enough. With business, I would say there's nothing perfect unless you just have a lot of money to take those hits and absorb them. But if you don't, you can take the risk or you can sit on the sidelines. I chose to take the risk. In some cases, I've hurt for it. That drove my decision to even get a day job now. That drove my decision to get a day job now. But even with me driving that decision to get a day job, I'm making decent change. And I'm also looking to change some of the things in the way I, do my life. And that gets into other things that I want to do in my 2-year plan, getting into a coin laundry, if anything, or another business that I can actually buy and be an absentee owner. And then even moving to a different state, maybe Georgia, Alabama, or South Carolina, and getting something with a lot of acreage so that I can actually start doing some other things like urban farming and agricultural technology, which is the next thing I want to move into. And then also on the computer side, or the strictly computer side, doing data sciences. So it's not how I wanted it. By this time this year, or December 1st is when I wanted to quit my night job and go full time. Stuff hit the fan. And going to what you talked about in terms of, because there's other things that happen outside of business, but going to what you talked about, how do you respond to it? Do you freak out, which I did, or do you freak out and have a plan, which I did ultimately? And sometimes you can freak out and fail, and then sometimes you could just freak out, chill, and let it go on and leave it up to chance. But to, I guess, end my spiel here is what I wanted to definitely talk to you, Dollar Will, about is investing. Once I clear up some of the debt that I have, invest. What should I invest in? How can I do things to get like maybe a passive portfolio that's paying me out money? Maybe even looking into dividend-bearing stocks. How do I look for the right things? And I already talked to somebody today about home loans and things like that, and getting a better understanding of that. So that's kind of what I'm here for, and I guess that's like that's the motivating factor behind all of this. Is like, okay, I've been given lemons. Let's make some lemonade and add some sugar to it. So
okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll say just to wrap up that chapter, what we just discussed, with your salon business, is it safe to say that it required more of your time than you expected?
No, more capital.
More
Not so
money.
much.
You were not concerned about the time. You were more concerned that the bleed, the drain.
Exactly. And it's kind of one of those, especially to what you said, you didn't expect it to go this long. And that was part of it. It's like, we didn't expect it to really go this long. And for it to go this long, how do you deal with that? And that's kind of what we're going through now, is dealing with that. Sorry, I'm looking at my battery, but go ahead.
Yeah. So you have a lot of I'm trying to transition to the stock in my mind. Is still on this business, man. Okay, so you got all this.
Yeah, no, we can stay on that if you want.
No, I'm gonna get to the stock of this because that's my wheelhouse. But this is not necessarily. I mean, I'm interested, but I don't have any particular expertise in this, as I said to you. But I'm still, and I made a recommendation for someone else in the Black sector of YouTube that will likely be receiving some communication from you. I will keep that anonymous until until let time take care of that. But if you got all this space in this facility that you're running, so if you can come up with some way you can monetize that unused space,
Well, the thing is, the space is totally used. So even our landlord was saying, "Hey, listen, Mike,
let me rephrase that. Not the unprofitable, because if you got people there and not paying, that's different. They using the space, but you're not profiting from it. Okay, so
yeah, like we got empty chairs, if you
there
will.
you
Yeah,
go. So I'm thinking in terms of like the way a grocery store would look at it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna let that product sit there and use that shelf space if it's not earning. If it's not, it's actually taking some money up to the house. You cannot just squat on that space.
Yeah, we've done things like having not parties, but having events in there. So hair centric events, maybe like a special guest comes through. Talk to my business partners about holding some type of classes and courses in those spaces as well, in that space as well, because it's 3,700 square feet. This barber section alone is about 700 square feet. And the stylist section, you move the chairs around, like you got a lot of space in there. I think they just had a Christmas party. I don't like crowds, so I didn't go. But we had a Christmas party in there, and it's just like, we have the space to do these things. It's like, okay, what else can we do to actually maximize? As you said, I actually wanted to do almost like 1 year. I wanted to do like an Art Basel event. It's a local art show down here, or a local art event down here. If you guys heard about the artist that took a banana and duct taped it to a wall and said, "This is art." And then the artist came up and it said and ate it. And he says, "I'm a starving artist. This is art as well." And I think somebody paid a couple grand for that banana art. But yes.
Yeah, because I was thinking of ideas along the line of what you were saying. Now the art shows and stuff that happened during the hours that the haircutting was going on.
Yeah. So that art show happened in another part of Miami, and actually pretty soon we're going to be having the Super Bowl here too. So we're not that far. The first location, you can spit from the front door and hit the stadium. Like literally, it's on the other side of the intersection. I think the first location is on the southwest corner of the intersection. The stadium is on the northeast corner of that same intersection. So you have that, and then it's like, okay, that's coming up. How do you maximize with that? And that's kind of like the things that you think about and the things that you try to like work through even. So yeah. Give me a sec. I need to get while you think I need to get a extension cable.
Okay.
You probably still hear me anyway.
So fam, if you're listening, if you got some ideas, what he can do with that unprofitable. It's not an occupied space, unprofitable, to increase the traffic, in the place, the visibility of the place. Maybe get a few customers. People come there for one thing, and they decide that they might want to use that salon.
And
you got any ideas, fam? Put it in the chat below the video.
One of the things to clarify, I guess you should be able to hear me. One of the things to clarify, though, is, and this is one thing that I had to step back and look at, what is our product? What do we sell as landlords? We sell space. So getting people in the door doesn't do much for us. It comes back to us in terms of, hey, they have money. Now they can pay us our money, the money they owe us. But what we need are people that can actually occupy the space on a regular basis. Because if they rent space, they don't, just because they get more people doesn't mean they give us more money. So that's kind of one of the things that you have to think about when you're running a business. What is your product? Who are your actual customers and clientele?
Can you explain that? Why doesn't one correlate, equal the other? Why is it that if the contractor gets more business, you don't get? Well, because you have. Are you saying because you have a set fee of
exactly
how much they pay, but at least they won't be delinquent.
Exactly. So that'll happen, right? So that's how you get back. You get a little money, you get something from that. That's your incentives. Hey, listen, if they get paid, then that should mean that we get paid, unless they're just total jerks, and then we just get them out of there anyway.
So the issue that is delinquent payment? Is that the issue, or is the
No,
issue that you need to be able to raise the rent?
the issue is mostly filling up the space because we're about half full. If
Yeah.
we fill the place up, we're looking at making about $7,000 a month, which to me is okay money because again, you split that three ways. So after profit, you're looking at an extra $2,000 a month. And then that's good if you're not really there all the time. I've gotten it to the point where we have cleaning that happens. The most I do is maybe tonight I have to go and fill the vending machine. Um, and I'm down there maybe once, maybe twice a week. So I don't have to be there on a regular basis. If there are any problems, we have the proper vendors to go out and fix those problems. And then if there are any problems with the people, I might do a meeting, or my business partner goes and does a meeting with them. And then we handle and squash any problems from there. So that's what you're looking at. But essentially, depending on the deal you work out with, working in a salon, you can get a flat rate. There's my thumb. You get a flat rate, which is, your weekly rent. And then two, you can do something where you do like a 60-40 split. And some places only do a split. So in some cases, you as the owner can get the 60, or you as the owner get the 40, and that's your portion of the actual the proceeds from what that person makes in the chair. That's where, and again, you have to have the money to sustain it when no money's coming in. So that's kind of like you got to play that balancing act, if you will. So the shop opens. Say the shop fills up to a certain point where we're doing well, and we have our regular flat rate booth renters. They're paying us, and we're making enough money off of that to pay all the bills. Then you can start doing things that are a little bit more risky, such as your 60-40 splits, your 50-50 splits, or your 40-60 split.
So you're talking about in one situation, you are a landlord, and the other one with the 60-40 split, you are a business partner with them.
You'd almost say like they're a commission worker, if you will, kind of like sales. So they're running sales. You get everybody in the door because you're going to have to do that. You're doing all the advertising.
Gotcha.
And then go from there. And that's kind of where it's like, okay, if I do advertising, they get the money and then I get something off of it. And it really makes sense that I do this advertising even more. Otherwise, they need to do their own advertising for the most part. We'll support them in one or two things and maybe mentor them on how to do things like, hey, sell more products, sell shampoo, conditioners, and things like that, and sell a product line that you might buy, you get a little piece or $1 or $2, and we get $1 or $2 off of it.
Okay.
And that's another way to maximize profits as well, but you also have to have somebody that's going to sell. So you have these little brushes that'll curl up your hair. You'll have you'll have the spritz. You'll have what they call topics or whatever that'll get your lining right. And I really need to I got like a little bald spot on one side. Anyways, getting old. So it's like, so you have all that. And those are your ways that you can actually make extra money. Also, you can start selling hair and other things to people in there. But you have to really get in good with them. Make sure you have good supplies to make sure that they never run out and never want to go somewhere else and things like that. And we've explored all those things. I wanted to make my own hair care product line as well.
Oh, okay.
But that takes money, formulas, lilac lavender scent and stuff like that, and getting the right smell and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I would say before I even go there, let me say this. Have you decided, or have you and your partner concluded that you're absolutely moving on from the business?
Yeah, so we've already listed the business for sale, but again, the only reason we did that as like plan A, plan B type deal. While we're looking at saying, hey, listen, let's sell the business, we want this business to do better. So if somebody comes knocking and they say, hey, listen, we'll take your asking price. Well, our asking price is a little bit higher now because we done filled this place up. So we're
There you
still
go.
working to actively fill the place up. We haven't given up on the business. And really, as I said, we're 2 to 3 people on a regular basis, like fill 2 or 3 spots, I should say, on a regular basis for saying, hey, listen, screw that. We'll hold on.
There you
And
go.
but it's like you got to play both sides when you're doing this and be pragmatic, but also have that passion and say, I want to keep it and let it grow and,
Yeah.
and nurse it to help, like I've done all that. Like I ran my computer consulting business for 10 years,
So
but it's not.
the ideal person to buy this business would be, to me, it just sound, again, I don't know, I don't have any expertise in this area, but just my instinct says to me that someone that's already in the salon business,
Mhm.
that's larger than your partner, that they have a good number of stores where maybe they have 3, 4
Mhm.
stores, and for them they have maybe an excess of contractors in 1 or 2 spots where they can pull 1 or 2 people, encourage them to move to the new spot. Or maybe it's just geographically more attractive to some of the people that they already work with, where it wouldn't be a problem for them to put keep the people you have there that want to
Yeah.
stay, and supplement that with they're probably thinking, look, I got 5 other people, 4 or 5 other people I can put in here, and I know I can get them in here in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I can afford it, to be down that chair, because I got this one place that's hot and I can't keep people out of there. Everybody want to work there, so I can
Right.
so somebody that already owns a salon business that's bigger, they may have the resources, not just financial, but contacts with other contractors, where they can foresee a plan that they can increase or double the booth occupancy rate, if you will,
Mhm.
in a month. And so
So,
for them, they may see that they can take on that risk.
I never thought about this. Who would be the perfect buyer? I always think first, one, the person that can afford it or get the loan, because you can get, and this gets into another thing that we can a rabbit hole we can go down as well. But you can get what they call SBA loans, so small business loans, if you will, or from I think SBA stands for Small Business Authority, and you can talk with them. And if you put down, say, 10% of whatever the asking price is, in our case, we're trying to sell it for about at least 300 grand on the low end. And even with that, that's still a net loss. Really, if around 400 grand is break even in terms of investment, and anything above that is profit. So just to be transparent with the numbers, because I'm here to, I want to give people real numbers so they can. I don't want to do the whole vague stuff, personally. Um, so you can get an SBA loan and things like that. So that's a person that can put down 10%, and then a small business authority or something like that, the local small business authority, or even I think there's a CPA authority or something like that. That stands for something else. But you can even get grant money and things like that. So that's one person. The first person is the person that can afford to do this. Second person is, you bring up a good point, another salon owner that has a small salon, and then they can move all their people into this new salon, take it over, and have people in there. Now they're full, and they're making probably this full 7 grand a month, and bringing that in because they already have all the chairs full, and they have maybe even extra space. So they want to upgrade their salon, but now you already have people. It's kind of like buying a home and it already has tenants, renters in there. You could look at it like that. Also, another person is, maybe somebody that wants to take it and they like the location and they want to remodel it a little bit. But even if you do that, that can really kill the business in the short term, in terms of the people that are there. But you can actually do remodeling. Because if you look at the video, one of the last improvements we made was putting in 4 55-inch TVs, 2 in the barber section, 2 in the stylist section. And we keep the place clean and everything like that. Probably the only maintenance thing we need to do is treat the floors in terms of recoating them with something. So that's probably one of the only things we need. So really, it's move-in ready is the point I'm making there.
Okay. Well, let's transition to the stock world, my thing. But hopefully, you will. One thing or another will happen. Either
Yeah.
you'll get more contractors, or someone will make you an offer you can't refuse. You know,
Or we should refuse.
that you shouldn't refuse. Yeah, yeah. But we
Hey man,
know,
listen. Sometimes you got to take the loss because even at a loss, we're still looking at it'll be a net loss, but we still have money in our pockets. And then, as I said, uh, this next year, again with the income from my jobs and my businesses, I'm looking at paying off whatever debt I have that is. I mean, it's all pretty, yeah, all of it mostly is still on. I got a 2017 Ford Explorer too that I'm trying to just take the Dave Ramsey approach in a sense and pay all that stuff off. But if I pay all that stuff off in a year and we still got it, man, fuck it, I'm gonna keep it because might as well keep it and just trying to make sure that we get more people in there. Because
right,
if nobody's buying it, it doesn't matter. Like you're gonna have to keep it because the other side of that is losing everything along with the time, but everything in terms of the money as well. And now you're SOL and you're looking at legal fees that you're gonna have to deal with.
right. Wow. And then of course you got your landlord. We're just looking at the macroeconomics of what's going on. Retail is hurting everywhere. The economy is
Yep.
slowing down, and your landlord has a tenant on the hook. He's
Right.
got you on the hook with a lease obligation. So
Right.
he's not.
And
He want
and
you gonna pay him.
And in some cases, depending on who the landlord is and what position they are in, they'll work with you. They'll work with you because it's like, okay, on the other side, at least this person's in here, and then I can sell this building with tenants in there. Kind of the same thing that we're talking
Correct.
about.
Correct. You're right. You're right. Yeah, there is that. But I'll say in terms of the dividend situation,
Mhm.
that is, I would say, as we age, that is the goal, and that's the way I look at it. I love dividends. For people listening, dividends are basically companies make profit, and the some stock bearing companies, some, not all, some take a percentage of their profit and they give it to the owners of the business, and the owners of the business are the stockholders. If you're a stockholder, you are an owner. And so some companies, they take a certain percentage every quarter or every month, or it depends on the business, and they just cut you a check. So you have two things: you have the stock that you own, which appreciates or depreciates. It either goes up or down. Usually, typically up in this case, because if the stock is struggling, then the dividend is threatened. Okay, so
Right.
typically the stock is
Kind of
going
like
up.
kind of like what's going on with Boeing from the little bit that I've listened to.
Yeah,
How is Boeing's dividends going to look in the future with this whole 737 Max
right.
issue?
So if you have debt and stuff like that, you don't really have the money to be paying gratuities, to
Hmm.
owners, So you need the money,
Right.
So the idea as we age is to invest in dividend companies so that you can make an income from your stocks, and that dividend payment has nothing to do with your stock appreciation. So
Mm.
it's almost like getting paid twice. You own the stock and you sell the stock at some point in the future for money, but for a profit. But along the way, like I said, either monthly or quarterly or however that company does it, you're getting a dividend payment. Now these payments are it could be small amount per share.
Hmm.
But if you have, let's say a company's paying 5%, or just break it down into numbers, it could be a
Hmm.
dollar a share, a quarter. Now, if you're a small investor, that's not going to add up. It'd be a lot
Hmm.
of money. But if you, as your balance grows, your the number of shares you own, as that increases, that multiple starts to be something that you can live off of. In fact, when you talk about like your 1%, we throw around euphemistically the top 1%. A lot of them live off of dividends. If you think about it, if you had, let's say you had about, I'll just throw this number out in terms of retirement account. My personal goal is $3 to $4 million. Show you how inflation works. When I was 20, $1 million was a lot.
And to be honest, that's very low in some
Yeah,
cases. Like $3 million, that's a $250,000-$300,000 house, or $250,000 to $300,000 house, and
I can make that work. Here's how.
a decent Honda.
Yeah.
That, just to be conservative with it, like you're not doing
no,
crazy stuff.
You're not balling. You're not on the yacht.
Right. And I'm just saying that for other people that don't know, because from what I've listened to, a lot of people go for $1 million, and it's just like $1 million. What are you going to do with that? Live with your kids?
Yeah. So no, I'm just let's say I had a portfolio of dividend paying stocks, and typically your dividend paying stocks are going to be things like in your consumer staple space, like your groceries and drugs, things you gotta have. So if when you and I really get into the weeds on this, we can look at some charts and stuff. But so you're talking about the consumer staples sector. So at this point in time, especially when the economy is starting to slow down, your grocery stores are going to be huge. Your frozen food companies, meats. Think. I know we say staples are food, water, clothing, shelter. Okay, all of that, and not so much clothes, not so much housing, but food and water, definitely, and
hygiene in some cases,
and health and beauty products. Now that relates to the first part of this conversation, because when the economy slows down, people can't afford to take trips and stuff, and so they start doing things like personal hair care, those things, like simple things that you can do to make yourself feel better. And so
you start to do things like staycations, if you will, or
staycations, that word is going to come back in. People, you don't hear that word anymore, but if you're older, you remember that word being bandied about a lot in 2007 to 2009. Staycations. That means you stay your butt at home.
Or a lot of people,
any place you can drive within, say, 4 hours of your house. That's what you did, but you didn't get on
Florida. It was Orlando, like South Florida. You would drive to Orlando and do a Disney staycation, if you will, and even then you'd go conservative for that.
That's right. Nothing that involves getting on a plane. Plane, because that's
no planes, no trains, just the automobile.
Right, and sleeping at family members' house.
Yep.
Okay. All of that stuff, So there are companies that are prime for that, like we said, the health and beauty stuff, and the food stocks. That's your frozen food. That's your meat stocks too. All of that type of stuff. Your guns and ammunition stocks. That people get paranoid, and there's a whole nother sector called sin stocks. And that's your historically that included your condoms, because sex goes up because it's cheap entertainment. Men and women we're gonna become our own PlayStations. We're gonna become one another's PlayStation. So
man, don't play with me, play with your mama.
all this bickering we doing, that's about the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, it might be good for the birth rates then.
And it's going to have an impact on that too. Because people sitting at home all day, what else they going to do? And they're not, and the cable bill, people not going to be able to pay the cable bill. Okay. And they're going to be struggling. It's going to be interesting to see if the YouTube internet fee. Now we might struggle to keep that. That's going to be the last to go. That's because people have gotten an addiction, and
Yeah,
we
it is
need
very ingrained.
psychologically we need it. It's not a it's a need now. It's not. I think it's grown to the level of a human necessity. You
Yeah,
know.
like what I've seen a lot lately is just I've watched this one guy, Andrew Camarath or something like that. And literally the guy does hour-long videos of him installing septic tanks. And I watched it. I watched the whole thing and I'm subscribed to his channel. And it's great. But then the biggest thing is you see the comment section and they're like, listen, I've watched multi-million, one guy literally said this, I watched multi-million-dollar movies and this is way better entertainment. I was like, yo, this guy just bought an old pickup truck for about 3-4 grand that's falling apart and rusting out. And he's showing us how he fixed it and brought it back to life right in front of you. And
Right.
it's like, you can't, I was late to work because of it this morning.
Wow. Yeah. Fascinating.
Oh, beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And network television is suffering with all these eyeballs on YouTube all day.
And these are the shows that E and True and Discovery have not picked up, and they just don't pick up because it's boring. But there's people out there that want that long format content, and they you listen to the guy. He doesn't even sound like he's anything. But now he's got people literally in the comment section looking up how much an old excavator is, how much a Bobcat 743B is. And trust me, I know because I looked one up because I want one now.
Yeah. And then you just mentioned it too, the comment section, that part of it. It's interactive. It's a community watching the video together. I notice like this is being recorded. Now it would have been more advantageous maybe if I had done it live, but because of what we talk about, I maybe if you're hearing this, that means I decided to put it up. But I still don't know yet. Well, if it depends on what kinds of stuff comes out, and if it of this conversation, and if what we discuss is advantageous to the sale of the business or not. So that kind of thing. So I wanted to have the discussion, and then we'll shut the tape off, and we'll make a decision about what is to become of this. And then if you're watching this tape, and obviously you know that we decided to share it. But see, in that long wind up, my mind just went. I had it in there.
I will say this: I definitely think you should share it, not just because of my ego, but anytime I put out content, even with some of the stuff I do, I try to be honest because a lot of people see the other side of, or they don't see the other side of business, and they don't see the overnight success that took 10 years and that was 10, 20 years in the making. They don't understand that, hey, they lost 1 or 2 businesses, or they lost money on this investment, or hindsight is 2020. That was a stupid idea. So I always like to show that because it's not the, oh, this guy's driving this car or have this house or has this toy that you don't have, but you don't know how you got it. That type of stuff. You don't see what's going on in the Joneses' house. You see what the Joneses got, but you don't see what's going on in their house.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I know what I wanted to say.
Got it? Okay.
Actually, no, I don't. But I'll go back even further. I started 3 different things and didn't finish. Let me say this: there's that uber rich class that makes so much money that their dividend payment or check that they get is so large that they can't even spend all of that. Now you're talking about people who have 10 million, that kind of thing. So they live off of that. They live off of that money, and then their heirs get the stock that was then their heirs then get the dividend. That's how you create generational wealth, where once you make the money you made makes you money, and then you get to pass that money making machine on to your next generation. And so my personal goal is to say 3 or 4 million, because if I'm able to say get a portfolio of companies that pay between 5 to 10% in dividends, let's just be conservative and say 5%. I know that there are some that pay more, but let's just say 5%. That's doable. If we're talking $4 million, that's $200,000 a year.
You
So
can live
you
off
have
that.
a serious drug problem if you cannot be happy with $200,000 a year.
Hey man, as I say, bro, I got two vices: strippers and ice cream, and you know, the ice cream costs more than the strippers. Put it to you like that.
And so that's why I say 4 million is enough for me.
Mhm.
For me,
Right.
that's enough for me. You know, and 300. I mean, 3 million. That's 150,000. I can make that work. You know,
Mhm.
once I grew up in the DMV area, so I know, and I got family in New York, and so I spent my life in the big cities, and I'm at an age now I don't need that. You know, I don't have no desire to live in a major U.S. city anymore. It's a nice place to visit, but I don't need to live there. I don't need to pay that freight, you know. And that's why I think, like,
Um,
just as a sidebar, Dave Chappelle, I think that brother was brilliant, man. He lives where does he live in? Ohio,
Arizona, I think.
something like that, you know.
Oh, I thought it was Arizona, but yeah, he doesn't live
Austin
anywhere
Trail. One
exactly.
place cheap, man. He could be blowing his money and trying to live in Beverly Hills or somewhere like that, and just end up broke doing out there, doing strange stuff. You know.
Yeah. Do you have the capability of sharing your screen? I just sent you a link. Do you have a
Yeah. Let me.
check that link out and we could talk a
Oh, so
little bit
you
about
on the
that.
phone, right? So you can't. Are you on the phone or a desktop?
No, check the private chat in StreamYard. Desktop, by the way.
Okay. Well, I'm saying you want. I mean, you want.
You want me to share my screen?
That way you have more control over it.
Okay. Um,
You see where it
share.
says screen share?
Yeah, I see it. And then I'm gonna share this application window.
There you go.
Let me split this off into another window here. Sorry, I usually always like to say, "Hey, listen, man, you share the screen so you can control everything." So my illicit habits don't show up. People can see. It's not that bad though. So, can you see this on the screen?
Yeah.
So, going off of what you said and talking those conservative numbers, 200 grand a year is more than enough for this. If I just keep one of my jobs, which is the plan after 2 years cutting down to just one job, I can get something like this. So we're looking at, this is in Georgia. It's not a well-known area, as you said, being city slickers for most of our lives, and you coming from a bigger city, probably even than me. Um, you know, you kind of get tired of that. So 418 grand, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 300,000 square feet or 3,000 square feet, and unique, approximately 114 plus or minus acres. Let that
Wow.
sink in there.
Wow.
And if I was to share, okay, you can see this on the screen, and let's go on lot lines on Zillow. This is the main property. It has a shed, and then it has like a covered parking area here. But if I was to, you can't zoom out on this map too much because it loses the lot lines here.
Uh-huh.
But on this 114 acres, this is the main property. You'll see what's crazy about this. As I go back, this is the lot. This is the lot line. So you have all of this. Oh shoot, I done lost it. You have all of that in terms of your land, goes all the way over to here, comes down, and this is the crazy part. A railroad track separates your portion of your land. You wrap around this property here and have this land to yourself. Again, this is contiguous lot lines here. So the only thing that's splitting it is the railroad tracks. And then also, this is your road frontage, and it has a farmhouse here with a barn. And that's the original farmhouse. And then they built a newer property in the back,
So wait a minute, you saying all of this is for that 418,000?
418 grand for 114 acres in Moultrie, Georgia. And we could look where that is. It's pretty much South Georgia. Probably Macon is probably about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours away. I think hour and a half, 2 hours away from Macon.
Okay.
And you're looking at Zillow estimate. I talked with real estate professional today, a loan originator, I believe was what he does. A branch manager, actually. But you're looking at, and they say the Zillow, his point was the Zillow numbers are a little bit, off. Probably about, at the most, 2 to 5% at max. Your base principal and interest mortgage is $1,500, taxes about $355, which all these numbers actually fell in line with what he said, so they're not too bad. Homeowners insurance is about $146 for this area. Total with mortgage insurance and taxes, $2,000 a month. And when I told him, hey, listen, I'm looking for something in the 400s with what I made, he was like, you could easily afford that. In fact, you can get more. And I was like, well, I didn't tell him, sooner or later I'd pick a job and quit, whatever. But this is what you're looking at, and this is what's out there. And again, we could look at, and so this is again going towards
why, let's see, what's your plan for all of that land?
Essentially, one, just for toy reason why. One reason is to build a berm and have a personal gun range for myself. Also, build a steel metal building and start doing some farming out of that. Going into agricultural technology, which is I want to start taking shipping containers and small spaces and turn them into actual farms, urban farms, where you can take these, take the system that I'm building and actually go ahead and do things like take a room and fully automate your grow process. Then, if you can do that, say in the middle of the city, because a lot of these farmers are killing themselves, they're closing out. A lot of Black farmers have been marginalized and discriminated against by farm bank or land banks for years. And now they're closing their farms down. What if there's a way you can do this out of your own home and make a couple $100,000 selling to local restaurants and saying, hey, you're getting your produce halfway across the country. I'm right around the block, and I can cut this produce right in front of you. Or right. I can deliver the trays and you can cut it your darn self, and it's that fresh. Wow. Like doing things like that. So like if I get even a house like this is about 10 acres, freaking log cabin. But again, I'll stop sharing this here. But stop sharing. Okay, I'm back to my pretty face. But those are the things you can look at when you're talking about, going back to your point, if you have enough in terms of dividend stocks that are paying you passive income, or even a laundromat that's making about $1,000 a month or so, and then you have that much space, you could build on that land and have multiple houses and have a whole subdevelopment for your family, blah, 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 so on and so forth. That stuff can pay for itself if you do it right and you really start to make little investments and turn that into something that can profit and come back in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. I'm thinking that, you get some cheap land like that and you can attract, or maybe it's not such a good idea. I'm saying you can, there are people who need, there are people who have business ideas, but they can't afford to stay in these big cities. Okay. But maybe for example, okay,
just like a rural incubator, if you will.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Where someone is from the big city, okay, they amass a nice little pot of money, and they have an idea they want to kick off, but they know if they stay in DC and New York and that the money's going to go. Okay, but if they could go to a place way off the path and pay you rent at the scale of, like, at the rate of that economy there, that would be a nice getaway.
So, for instance, I was looking at steel metal buildings, and those are buildings that, and one guy I was talking to today, he was talking about, hey, listen, if you get into steel metal buildings, one thing, okay, I can't find the website I was looking at, but if you get into steel metal buildings, that changes your tax exposure, if you will, and you have to talk to a local municipality if you want to start turning it into profit or for-profit space. But a steel metal building, 21 by 41 feet, is with 16-foot roofs or 16-foot ceiling. Just for them to come out, put the building together and everything like that, construction, you're looking at about 15 grand
Wow.
for 21 by 41 feet
Okay.
and tall ceilings. So that means you can have like larger shipping containers like I want to do and
Mhm.
things like that. And you have more than enough land to the point where you hide that into a portion of your land with trees, you'll never see it.
Right. That's another thing I was going to say. With all that land
Mm.
in the plate in an area like that, the safety of it, it could be a while before people figure out um, what you have there.
Yeah, you'd have a helicopter fly over or something like that. I mean, the one guy I was talking to, he was talking about like his, I think one of his relatives, father-in-law or something like that. He was he's growing illegal drugs, or illegal flowers. You know what that is, but he the only way they're going to find it is like, they do a flyover. And then even with a steel metal building, the only time they find it during the winter is because and this is kind of funny, if all the roofs in the area are covered with snow, but then you have that one building that has no snow on it, boom. That's where you have your grow operation because it generates a lot of heat. And I was just like, that's whoa. And that's how they've been finding people that do it in those areas. But I mean, I'm not trying to do anything like that because you can make a lot of money off of actual what they call microgreens. So for instance, if I wanted to, and I game plan this, if I took my salon, put in 4 40-foot shipping containers, and fill all those up with mint selling at $25 a tray, out of that, and I forgot how many trays and everything like that, but I looked at some of my numbers. I would gross about 600 grand a year because mint has a plant to harvest cycle of 2 weeks. So if everything goes fine, perfect, and I get every harvest, no fungus or anything like that, you're grossing about 600 grand. And then do 80% of that, would be around 400 grand, 480 grand or so gross.
Okay,
Um,
now go back. How many trailers would produce that 400,
so
600 grand?
four 40-foot shipping containers. Sorry, it's
Okay,
the
and the shipping containers cost how much?
shipping containers
Get it
cost you
outfitted
probably about
with the climate control and irrigation, everything you need. How much wood are we talking?
a shipping container base is probably about 25 to 3,500 depending on the condition, and then tricked out with all that other stuff in there. I have to get the exact numbers, and I'm actually gonna log into my thing here now and get that number for you actually. But I gave you those overview numbers because that's the ones I have in my head.
Yeah, yeah. But
But
I
let me
mean,
look that up while you.
you can give me a rough, just a rough idea, just so we can do some quick math.
You okay? Sorry, you'd probably invest in every shipping container, maybe around 5 grand or so. Maybe a
Oh,
little bit
okay.
more depending on AC and how you set that up, because you could have not AC but essential air circulation coming from outside source if you have it within a space. But if the shipping container is self-contained outside, um,
So basically, you're talking 4 containers. You're looking at what, 25 to 30 grand.
yeah, you can say something like that. And I mean, you're looking at even more per month. You said what, 25 to 30 grand to get them up and running?
Yes.
I would want my price point to be a little bit lower, but let me get you the numbers that
I'm
I
just, yeah, I'm just saying because I'm looking at that big number of that 4 to 600. Now, remember when we started, when you in the beginning of this discussion, you said when you ran the numbers for your salon business, you underestimated. So that's
Mhm.
why I said 25 to 30. I
Right.
I padded it.
Yeah. Well, another thing what you would do is I wouldn't pad that so much. I would pad your other operating expenses and making sure that you have, because you would build into that space eventually. That would be the ultimate goal. So you already have a farm ready to go.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that 25 to 30, that
Hmm.
that's doable. And
Hmm.
when you said in theory, that could become 400 to 600K in 1 year. That's awesome.
Right.
That makes that's a low risk. That's a low risk proposition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you'd build it out, and there's a lot of things that you'd have to deal with, such as like your crop going bad, power going out, and you might have your temperature and your environment being off. So those are a lot of things that you really do have to worry about.
Now, is it possible to get one, like a smaller trail, again, to tie it back to a lesson that you said, you pointed to, that you learned in your salon business, that you should have started smaller and
Right.
then launched to a bigger one? So is it possible to do a trailer size or half a trailer size right now where you are in
I
Florida,
would.
just to test the process and serve a small number of businesses right where you are, and then once you see what there is to learn right there where you are now, then you can project forward what make a better projection about what you're facing when you move to a whole nother state, whole nother politics of a whole nother local economy.
So to clarify, yes, it's exactly what I would do. Something like this, I wouldn't go big starting out. It's not something I'm totally familiar with in terms of that whole process. You can start this from, I've seen people, they started from their basements, they're grossing 10 grand a month.
Wow.
You're looking at that. In some cases, some people have, trying to look for this darn thing. Oh, I missed it. Some people start from a corner in their kitchen, and they have maybe a set of Costco steel shelves, and that's all they're putting together. And that's, all that they do. They don't have anything too big, nothing too expansive. And then later on, they grow up to something. What I just mentioned, and thank you for, calling me on that, is saying that's an ultimate goal, and that's kind of like what you could be looking at and what you could grow into. Along with that space, you can not just ship out product, but you can sell product right there as a storefront, and even start running something almost like a juice bar.
Wow.
And that's kind of, if you're doing it within city limits and things like that, and going from there. So
now, I remember on your channel you were building a grow box. I don't think
and that's a part of this.
did you complete that? Because I don't know if I don't think I watched the videos to see it through to completion. Did you ever finish it?
No, that's an ongoing process. With everything that's going on, I put it on the back burner, and I'm also working on other programming projects for customers. But the grow box and doing that is a part of this whole thing, and that's kind of, this is uh, the what's it called, the starting point for it all. And eventually, the ultimate goal is to get to something like that,
Okay.
where we're doing, like, a larger. Oh, here it is. Blank seat. I'm probably going to share this. Do I have this? Oh, this is not even locked. I'm going to share my screen again. Show this tips, and then share this application window.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna look for your link. I'm gonna drop that to your channel.
Appreciate it. So do you see it up on screen now?
I'm gonna get right there. Wait a minute. Do you have 2 pages?
2 pages.
You
Yeah.
know what? You say you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or two YouTube pages.
That's what I mean. 2. You have 2.
No. I only have one, and you should see a bear, a colorful bear.
Yeah, I got that. I saw another person with the exact same name as you. I've never seen that. I didn't know YouTube allowed that.
Yeah, because on the back end, it's a
So there's the link in the channel for Young Grizzly's page. Check him out. He's got neat projects. This guy's always doing something, man. He'll talk to you about some of his networks and stuff he's done in the computers. He's got some videos up taking you through some of the trials and tribulations of the salon, and he's got his Grow Box project. You just never know. And since some days he's just like driving along and just needs to vent, and so you'll get some venting too.
Yeah. There's been a lot of that lately too. I gotta actually. There's a job. There's something. So, Black Seed Farms' ultimate goal. So again, thanks for calling that out. The ultimate goal, if I was to take my salon, 3,700 square feet, and I lay out the shipping containers as such, 40 feet here. Again, this is not drawn to scale. 40 feet here, a 2-foot space in between. These two shipping containers are side by side, and still have about 12 feet worth of space here. A storefront that's probably about 360 square feet, so 10 feet by 36 feet. And probably an R&D space for building area, so 16 by 21 feet. A little small shipping container, 20-footer, and that could be cut, prep, pack area, and then you'll have a little bathroom back here, or bathroom area where most of your plumbing will be coming from. In terms of that's kind of you want to come from the bathroom, but you know what I mean. And then you'll have your garage doors back here, but this is 102 by 36 feet square space. This is the picture of the salon, bare naked, before we even started any type of construction. So that's where my salon is actually coming from. As you heard, Dollar will drop the link to the video or to the channel, so you can actually watch where it actually is now. And that's my business partner actually in the foreground. This is from the front towards the back, or from the back towards the front of the space. And this is where this is how the space looks now, in terms of where it's been built out and everything. Anyways, so looking at my current numbers, again, transparency. Rent $7,300 a month, light $800, security systems such as Vivint $55, trash $260. That would go up, but I'm just going off of the numbers I have now. Internet, I would go cheaper on that because you don't need much for cameras and everything. You're looking at spending about $8,500 a month in just rough basic operation costs. And then this is where I started to get a little bit more into it. So 960 feet of shelf space, 40 containers. So 40-foot containers. So that's 14 racks per container. So that's about 65-inch width rack. So on those 14 racks, you can do about 18 trays per shelf. And then that's 252 trays per container, and about right there. And then you're looking at about $600 per container per cycle, depend on crop. So 252 trays times $25 a tray per container, you're probably making per cycle of crop. Some crops take a month to grow, or actually even less time, like a week. And some crops take 2 weeks, and then you're planting and harvesting. You're harvesting and then planting another set. You're looking at coming in at about $12,600 per month per container, which is all of these. And this is if I did mint, if I just grew mint only.
Are you considering in terms of labor? What's the labor requirement?
Didn't consider that. Those numbers I don't have, because I could probably say hire some local kids from school for the grunt work, and then have oversee your manager that runs over them, and you pay that person a little bit more. Or you can have people that are self-sustained, probably about two or three adults running the operation, doing all your harvesting and then even deliveries, depending on like my involvement also in the business. So I'm looking at roughly at least needing about 2 people to harvest and run the whole operation, in terms of harvesting and then deliveries.
Well, I like how the way you laid it out just now. You planned for yourself to not be uh, uh, the principal laborer, because
Right.
you know you're human. You get sick, it can all fall down. you know,
Most definitely.
that a lot of people do that. They come up with a one man band kind of operation, and just like life steps in, and they
Right.
just until the business goes, and then they can't pay the mortgage either. You know?
Right. And that's kind of a big thing that I a big push I made even with the salon, so I can cut down. I used to have to clean those floors by myself, and that was 4 hours, like on a Friday.
Yeah.
Like, I was doing that, and like on days I got sick and that floor was dirty. You know what I mean? So
And I'll say this for everybody north of 50, they want me to tell you, your body changes when you get on the other side of 50.
man, when you get
Whole
on
lot
the
of
other side,
things
it's
you don't take
dirty,
for
bro.
granted. So like hard labor, having like projecting a future of you
Hmm.
doing like anything strenuous on a regular basis. That
Hmm.
not a good idea unless you factoring in the need to pay people. You know,
Yeah.
we,
So I you could probably get away with paying 11, $12 an hour, in something like that, because it's mostly labor intensive and it doesn't require much thinking. Hey, listen, just pack this over here. I'm trying to design the software, so that it runs the entire grow operation by itself, turning on fans, turning on lights, giving us feedback and readings and things like that. So that's also a laborer, if you will, that's always working, that I don't have to pay for any insurance or downtime or anything else like that. You make the software good enough, it does a lot of this stuff for you. Because there's nobody on the other side of Gmail creating your account. It just does it. So something like that. But $151 per container per year. And that's what you're grossing. So you're looking at, again, dreaming. This is, and you can see I put that word in there, dreaming. Um, you're looking at 604 grand a year, for just 4 shipping containers in this space. About 50 grand, 400 a month. Again, that doesn't show initial costs. I do go over the monthly costs, but building out those containers, growing the business until you get it to this point, um, upgrading your space over time. And again, this is why I say this is the ultimate goal of something like this, where you're having, something like, other companies that are doing the same thing, such as Bowery Farms and, Gotham Farms, even. And
yeah.
even Whole Foods has a garden on top of one of their stores.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned mints, and of course, it could be anything. You mentioned greens. It could be legalized marijuana, or it could be.
That costs a lot more, but yes.
So at this point, I want to stop the recording and end the feed, or this presentation, and then we're going to continue. After I stop it, we're going to start chopping it up on some stock stuff,
Mhm.
or those of you listening, the link to his channel will be. I'm going to put it in the description section, because I don't know if when you post these videos like this, the chat doesn't always come up. I
Mm,
maybe figure that out. Like sometimes I put videos up and the chat just didn't come up. So I'm going to
right.
put
Yeah.
this link in the description section. I'm going to put
Mhm.
my Patreon link there for those of you who are interested in learning a little technical analysis to learn how to get ahead of this decline that's coming in the stock market. It's not a maybe, it's a real thing. It's absolutely uh, uh, going to happen. It's not going to be very long. We're overdue already. Okay, technically, we're overdue. And so it's going to happen. Consider joining my Patreon for $10 a month. Trading education can easily go over $1,000. So,
Mhm.
I can't do it any cheaper than that. And I'll tell you, there's lots of great YouTube videos out there. But what you really need mostly is a guide. You need someone to whittle that stuff down for you, because you can spend years watching those videos, and you need feedback from someone. So mostly what you need is a relationship of some sort. And so consider joining my Patreon, and we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna end this, and we're gonna kick some stock talk a little deeper with some charts and stuff. Peace. Thank y'all.